Hey guys, we are just getting started. How to be an expired master. Guys, when I started thinking what could I provide? How could I provide the most value to my group coaching clients? I want to give you, I know a lot of markets across the country right now. There's not a lot of expireds to have out there. There's not a lot of expireds to master. However, there are a lot of markets across the country where there still are a lot of expireds. And guys, you always have old expireds. You always have new ones. You always have old ones. There's always listings coming on and off the market. And what I wanted to do was give you guys a complete system to go out there, know what to do, know how to attack these listings, and how to actually overcome objections, overcome your competition, and basically be able to build a system or another stream of listings from this. So now, first of all, let's talk about what exactly is an expired, because I want to make sure that we're all on the same page and you know what I'm talking about. An expired is a listing that is no longer active on MLS with a real estate agent. Okay, so once they expire, most MLSs have an option there where you can pull up like all the expireds for today or all the expireds for this week or this month or things like that. So an expired listing is a listing that is no longer active on MLS. It's not sold. It isn't under contract. It's not withdrawn or canceled or anything. It is a listing that is no longer active, guys. So what we want to talk about is how to be a successful expired listing agent. So I want to go down through real quick, what you're going to learn today. Number one, you're going to understand why listings expire, understand expired listing seller mindset, which is really important. I often feel if we can understand a little bit better about why people do what they do, then sometimes we can understand a little bit better about how we can help them. I want to help you learn how you can overcome that mindset, learn how you can get in contact with expired listing sellers. Number 5, how to get expired contact information. Number 6, what to do when you get an appointment. Number 7, how to prepare your pre-listing package for these expired listings. Number 8, I want to help you come up with a written follow-up plan. Number 9, I want you to learn the 4 presentations that are at every listing appointment. Number 10, how to overcome common objections. Number 11, how to build a tough mindset. And number 12, I'm going to show you how to be consistent. That's the biggest thing that agents don't do. They have a fantastic month. They have 4 closings one month. The next month they have 0, and their business just kind of goes up and down constantly. I'm going to show you how to be consistent. So first of all, why do listings expire? Number one, this is the most common. The number one reason is they're overpriced, right? You got a $150,000 house that's priced at $250,000. Of course, nobody's showing it, nobody's looking at it, and it's going to expire off MLS. Number 2, lack of access. I had one not long ago. It was a great house. It was in fantastic condition, great location, had beautiful views. It's priced right and everything. The problem was the seller just never would allow it to be shown. I mean, we were getting to show it maybe 1 out of 4, 1 out of 5 times. So he was losing 80% of his buyers because people don't typically, in a normal market, people don't buy a house at sight unseen. So unless it's just a fantastic deal. But if you can't get in the house, you can't show the house, it's going to be hard to sell the house. Number 3, the house is in bad condition. Okay. Sometimes we go in, I know me especially, sometimes I can overlook things because I've got a vision and I understand what the process is to fix problems often. So sometimes I'll look at a condition and I go, oh man, that's not really that bad. But in reality, for the average person that's out there looking at those houses, that's a really big deal that they have to overcome. So sometimes the condition's a little bit worse than we have. If it's a house that's more than likely going to be a primary residence purchase, but it needs new carpet, it needs new paint, it needs a new roof, whatever it is, lots of times that primary residence purchaser, they don't have a lot of money. They're getting an FHA loan, they're putting down 3.5%, or maybe they're getting some sort of 100% loan, whether it's USDA or VA or something like that. And they've got enough money to close on a house, but they don't have enough money to do, $10,000 worth of work on top of their closing cost and everything else that comes along with it. So number 4, sometimes they have just a bad listing agent. I mean, all of us that have been in business for a little while, we've all worked with that agent that never would schedule a showing, never would call you back, never was available. And agents just go, oh man, that's so-and-so's listing. I've tried to get in it 3 or 4 times. I'm just not going to go look at it. So sometimes they just have a bad listing agent. Number 5, sometimes it's a nice house, great location, and a fantastic price, but they have really bad pictures and a really bad description. And that affects things more than anything, because people don't just go look at houses just to look anymore. I don't believe, it's like, hey, if we're shopping for t-shirts on Amazon, we see a shirt we don't like, we hit the next button. People are doing the same thing when they're shopping on your website. They're doing the same thing. They're shopping on Zillow, Realtor.com, and all that stuff. If they don't like the pictures and they don't like the description, they hit the next button, right? So number 6, uncontrollable circumstances. Sometimes listings expire due to uncontrollable circumstances. I mean, it's things that, the seller was sick. I had one that the neighbors kept interfering with the property. I had one that the neighbor kept coming over. He wanted his daughter to buy the house, and his daughter didn't have money. She didn't have credit. Basically, she couldn't. So he was hoping that the seller would just re-rent the house to somebody. So every time somebody would go over and look at it, he would tell them things like, oh, there was a murder there. Oh, there was a meth lab there. It was insane. But sometimes it's just uncontrollable circumstances that, we couldn't stand guard out in front of the house for every single showing. And number 7, sometimes when you list a property as an agent, you just run out of time. And we've all done this. We've all had a house that, hey, we took a 90-day listing because it was priced right. We just knew it would sell. And you know what? We got a contract. That contract got stretched out 45 days, 60 days, 75 days. And then the buyer didn't close, and we just didn't have enough time to get another contract. And the seller just didn't want to list it. They were frustrated with the process, and we just ran out of time. Number 8. Tenant leases in place. Now, in a lot of markets right now across the country, the market's on fire. If you have tenants in a place and they've got 12 months left on their lease, or they got 6 months left on their lease, that cuts out a lot of the primary residence people, right? Sometimes the tenants won't allow it to be shown. Sometimes the tenants don't want to move because they have a great, they've got time left on their lease, plus they've got a great rent reference. And, a lot of places in the country, rental rates are tight, the tenant doesn't want to move. They don't want to show the place, whatever it is. A tenant lease can cause a listing to expire. Number 9, litigation. Now, this has been a big one in my market. Now, some markets it's a little different, but this has been a big one here. Now, litigation, what I mean is lots of times when you have sellers that are, or you have a condo development, especially. You have a condo development, there's some litigation going on with the developer. It's going to get resolved. It's something that doesn't really affect the building. But what happens lots of times with a condo development and HOA, and this is a big reason in my market, is the litigation prevents you from getting financing or preferable financing terms. So what ends up happening is the condo or townhouse can't get financed. So, or that litigation is something that's looming out there where they think there's going to be a big assessment. So buyers stay away from it, and the listing expires, It was a nice unit. It was a great price. It was a great location. Everything was perfect except for it had this lawsuit out there that scared everybody away, and the listing expired. Number 10, guys, there are so many other reasons. These were the top 9 that I see over and over and over again. There are some reasons that none of us can ever imagine, but there's lots of other reasons. But what I want you guys to see from this, there's more reasons than just the unit was overpriced. A lot of agents feel like, oh, it expired because it was overpriced, or all expireds are overpriced. That's why they expire. That's not the case. There's so many other reasons other than price that can affect a listing expiring. So the idea that they're overpriced, it isn't really, that's not true at all. And even in today's market across the country, a lot of listings, hey, if it was overpriced 30 days ago or 60 days ago, 90 days ago, man, in another 30, 60 days, that's going to be like a really reasonable price for the community, just depending on the market that you're in. Now, the mindset of an expired seller. I don't know how else to put this, except for lots of times that mindset is comparable to when, a breakup in a relationship. Typically they feel angry. They're upset because, hey, I've done all this work, and my house didn't sell. Or they feel let down. This agent told them over and over again, the agent was their friend. The agent would, they really liked them. The agent told them like, oh man, we're going to sell your house. We're going to sell your house. I can do it. I can sell it, blah, blah, blah. Let me list it. And it didn't work out. Nobody come to look at it. They feel let down. They feel defeated. Lots of times they didn't get the outcome they were looking for. They feel lied to. Lots of times the person that owns the house feels like they failed. There was something wrong with their house. Lots of times they feel like, oh man, I only had 3 showings. I put it on Craigslist yesterday and I've got 10 calls. They fail to mention that 9 out of those 10 calls were asking about rent to own or lease options, but they feel like they can do better than their last agent. And this is probably the biggest one, is they feel like all agents are the same, right? So what we're going to go down through today is we're going to get you a plan so that you're not the same as all agents, because that's the biggest misconception, that all agents are the same. Only some agents are the same, right? So how do you overcome the way expireds feel? Well, number 1, you got to have a plan. You got to have a plan that they can buy into. That is the reason they're hiring a real estate agent. The typical seller out there, the reason why they're selling their house is because typically they have a problem and they feel like selling that house is going to fix their problem, right? So they want what they're hiring you for. They're not hiring you for your good looks. They're not hiring you because of the car you drive. They're not hiring you because, hey, you've got a drone sitting in your back seat and you showed it to them and let their kids fly it around the yard. They're hiring you because they believe you have a plan that's going to sell their house, and therefore selling their house is going to fix their problem. And by problem, I mean they're either moving up, they're moving down, they're moving sideways, they're moving because of a job. They can't afford the payments. I mean, there's lots of problems they could have that trigger this, that they need to move. So the number 2 thing that you can do to overcome the way they feel is to do whatever you say you're going to do. If you tell them, I'm sending you an email in an hour, you need to send them an email in an hour, right? You need to do whatever you say you're going to do, right? If you tell them you're going to be there at 4:00 today, you really need to be there at like 3:45, right? You need to do whatever you say you're going to do. Number 3, you're going to have to build trust. Now, this is the most important thing, because I'm a big believer that in our industry, we used to be the gatekeepers of information. That's all gone now. That was 10 years ago. Now all that information is freely available on Zillow, Realtor.com, all over the internet, all these different places. The only thing you really have for your clients today is that you have a plan and you have the ability to gain their trust. If they do not trust you, they are not going to use you. I mean, that is the bottom line. So you have to build their trust. And the number 1 way that you're going to have to do this is you're going to have to follow up, and you're going to have to add value to every conversation you have have with them. And I'm going to tell you one thing you guys need to do right now when you're talking to these buyers, these sellers. One important thing you need to do right now is you need to eliminate the word list from your vocabulary. Okay, and here's the reason why. Okay, the word list, let me list your house. That's really just industry slang anyway. It doesn't mean nothing to anybody outside of the real estate industry. The word list, let me list your house. Oh, let me list it, right? That word is just industry slang. Okay, the last agent, when they expired, that last agent listed their house. That's what they have in their mind. That last agent listed their house. The person down the road listed their house and it didn't sell. It is a negative. It's negative in their mind. So you need to eliminate that. Whenever you're talking to sellers, you need to talk about selling their house, right? Everything needs to be, I can sell your house. Let me sell your house. Let me help you sell your house. When can I start working for you, right? You need to eliminate the word list from your vocabulary. Once you do that, you're going to see conversations start to change. Okay, so how do you contact expired listings? There's three main ways you can contact them, right? You can call them on the phone, you can send them something in the mail, or you can go knock on their door. Other than that, there really isn't any way else to do it. You can call them, you can mail them, or you can door knock. Now, this is typical. This is a typical expired that you have out there. You can call them on the phone, you can mail them, send them something in the mail, or you can knock on their door. So I put phone calls number one. And why I put phone calls, this is the most trusted contact method we have with these potential listings or these potential clients. This is the most trusted contact method we have, the phone. We can pick it up, we can dial it. Now, there's going to be other agents calling them as well, but this is the quickest, easiest way. This is the you can get through more expireds, you can have more contacts, on the phone than you can any other way. So I want to show you guys, this is what my typical phone script looks like with an expired. For you guys that have been through my For Sale by Owner Master program, you'll know it's very similar. Now, the thing to keep in mind when you're on the phone with these people, you want your script to be short, because these people, lots of times they've had 10 people call them already. They've had 20, 30 people call them already. Keep your script short. The only thing you are doing on the phone is you are setting an appointment to come to their house. So here's how it goes. Hey, Mr. Seller, this is Jason Morris with eXp Realty. Do you still want to sell your house at 123 Main Street? Do you still want to sell your house? You want to focus on that. Do you still want to sell your house? If you say, hey, Mr. Seller, would you like to relist their house? They are going to hang up on you immediately, right? Hey, Mr. Seller, this is Jason Morris with eXp Realty. Are you still wanting to sell your house at blank? And more than likely, if you get them on the phone, they're going to say yes. Oh, well, that's great. What will you take for it? Now, you have the listing information right there with you. So you kind of already got a good idea, but sometimes you'll have these expired sellers that, the house was listed for 150, but man, they would have taken 120 for it. The listing agent just never price reduced them. They never asked them, hey, Mr. Seller, look, we're not getting a lot of responses. Will you come down on the price? So always ask, what will you take for it? What do you want to walk away with? What do you want to put in your pocket, right? Next question is, how soon do you want to sell it? Gosh, I seen you had it. I seen it expired off MLS. How soon are you wanting to sell this house? And then just say, great. As soon as they give you an answer, say, I can sell it for you. I'm going to stop by at 5 p.m. today. Will you be home? Right? Go ahead and set the appointment. Then ask them for their email address. I want to send you some information over just so you know who's coming by. Now, this is ideal expired script. This is ideal. This is hopefully the way to go. Now, sometimes you get hung up on, sometimes you get screamed at. expireds, if you're calling the brand new expireds that expired this morning, it's gonna be a little bit difficult sometimes, right? And you're gonna have to build a tough mindset. We're gonna get to that in a minute on how to build that tough mindset. But the thing is, if you called today, they were angry at you. They're not angry at you. They're angry at the situation they are in. They're angry at that problem they thought was going to be fixed by now. They are not angry at Jason Morris. More than likely, they don't know me, right? So, and more than likely, they're not going to remember me if I call back in 2 days or I call back in a week, right? So remember, just stick to the script. If they're angry, do not take it personal. Just go to the next one, right? So here's some tips that I have. Number one, don't try to list the property over the phone or get a commitment over the phone. List it with your sales system. You're calling to get an appointment. So I've seen this a lot of times where agents call and they try to get the seller to commit over the phone. Now, they've had a 5-minute conversation with the seller and they're trying to get them to commit. You guys think about this, right? Think about this when a telemarketer calls you. They want you to sign up for something on the phone. You've never heard of this person. You never heard of the company. Where's your trust level at? How likely are you to give them your credit card over the phone? Sellers are just like this. They are more than likely 99% of the time, 99.9% of the time, they are not going to list with you over the phone and they are not going to commit to you over the phone. That's just the way it is. But you can get them to commit to an appointment. And then you can list it with your sales system and your follow-up process by sending them your pre-listing package, showing up on time like you're supposed to, and presenting to them effectively. Number two, you need to be very confident. And we've all had this. If you pick up the phone and somebody's on the phone and they're kind of mousy and they really, they're talking real low and stuff, and they're not really confident. They don't sound like they really know what they're doing. They don't sound like they know what they're talking about. You're probably not going to do business with them, right? If you're like that when you talk to your sellers, all right, they're not going to do business with you, right? They want somebody that sounds like they know what they're doing. They want somebody that sounds like they have a plan, right? Number three, you always pick the time to meet. Do not ask when works for you. There's never a time that works. Okay, I think the biggest objection that we get in the real estate industry, well, one of the biggest ones that is self-created, is we go, hey, well, when's a good time for me to come over? And then they go, oh, well, I got to talk to my wife or I got to talk to my husband. I'll have to call you back. And then a lot of agents, they sit there by the phone saying, oh, well, they're going to call me back. And they never do. You got to pick the time they meet, right? When you call your dentist and you say, hey, I'd like to come in for a checkup and get my teeth cleaned. They say, yeah, Jason, come on down whenever you feel like it. They go, hey, we have an opening Tuesday at 3:00. Will that work for you? That's what you need to do, right? Number four, make sure when you're calling, it's pretty quiet in the background. Number one, you want them to be able to hear you. But number two, it's so annoying when people call you over the phone and there's all this noise in the background. There's all this stuff going on and you can't pay attention for them because of like the roar of the call center in the back, So make sure it's fairly quiet in the background. It's going to help you stay focused. It's going to help you stay on point with the conversation. It's going to help them stay focused on the conversation and make sure they can listen to you. So number five, follow the script. Guys, if you're using the same script over and over again, you're going to get the same objections. And you're going to start getting those same objections over and over again, you're going to get really good at overcoming those objections and answering the questions that you're going to get. You need to follow a script. One of the most important things that you guys can do is get one script that you're using for expires. Use it over and over and over again. The script I gave you is pretty simple. I mean, a lot of these scripts have 25 questions. They're going into, oh, well, are you going to relist with your other agent? Where are you planning to move to? None of that stuff matters on the initial call, right? All that matters is, what do they want for the house? Do they still want to sell their house? What do they want for it? How soon do they want to get rid of it? And when can you come meet them? That's all that matters on the call, right? So you don't have to go into what did the last agent not do that you think that maybe you can do better. You don't have to go out into all of that. The phone call is not the place to go into it. The place to go into it is at the appointment. Number 6, pay attention. Now we all, I'm guilty of this too. You know what? We're on the phone. We're making calls. We got all kind of stuff going on. We got the dialer going. We've got all this stuff happening, right? You're going to do a lot better on the phone if you're focused on the calls that you're having and you're focused on the conversations that you're having. You're going to be able to respond quicker. And we all know how it is when you're talking to somebody on the phone and you kind of tell that they're not paying attention to you because of the way that they're responding to the questions. You don't want to do that when you're talking to these expireds. A lot of them aren't going to give you a whole lot of time to get out what you want to say, especially if they expired today. The older ones are a little bit kinder and gentler. The newer ones, they're just getting blown up depending on the market you're in. Number 7, you got to have a good attitude, right? If you go into this, you're angry, you're negative about it. If you do not believe it's going to work, if you don't believe that calling expireds works, it is not going to work for you. If you do not have a good attitude about it, I will tell you, the agents, the biggest thing I see, like one of my biggest pet peeves when I talk about expireds and I talk about expired services is agents go, oh, all the numbers are wrong. All the numbers are wrong. And I'm going, so if you get 10 numbers, all 10 numbers are wrong. All 10 people you called 100 people, and out of 100 of them were mean to you that day. Man, the people that were really mean to me on the phone or really have been mean to me in my career, I got one guy, I remember calling the guy, and the guy on the phone, as soon as I get out my name and stuff, he goes, I know you. F you. And then he calls me an a-hole, and I don't know who the guy was. I looked him back. It kind of took me by surprise. But I mean, the times that I've had people to do that in my career, and I mean, we're talking about 12, 13 years of making calls. I mean, man, I can count on one hand. I mean, the people aren't going to eat you over the phone. There's no need to be scared of them. If you have a good attitude, you're going to get a lot better results. Number 8, be friendly. Guys, people like to work with friendly people. People don't like to work with people that are smart asses. If you're mean to people on the phone, like I've seen some scripts too and some objection handlers I've seen some coaches do, and it's like they're trying to get one up on the person they're on the phone with. If you're trying to do that, they're not going to respond to that well. People don't like to be talked down to. People like to work with nice people, right? If you're friendly on the phone, it's going to be a lot easier for them to be friendly back to you. If you're a jerk on the phone, believe me, they're going to be a jerk back to you. So, and guys, it's really that easy. Like with the scripts and dialogues and stuff on the phone, the simpler you make this process, the easier it's going to be. And the more likely you're going to do it. The more you overthink, the more you overthink expireds, the more you overthink your script, the more you overthink your dialogues and the process and everything you have to go through, the harder it's going to be. And the harder you make it, the least likely it is you're going to do it. If you make it too hard, you're just not going to do it. And that's a fact for everything in life. If you make anything you do, if you make it too hard, you're just not going to do it. Next, guys, we got the mail. And by mail, I mean the U.S. Postal Service. And guys, what I did here was I listed the positives and negatives for doing mail, right? Guys, you can do mail. It's a great addition to any plan. Now, one of the biggest things, we'll go down through the negatives first and get them out of the way. Then we'll get to the positives. The negatives. Number 1, mail can get expensive. I mean, just the envelope, printing the page, stuffing an envelope and putting a stamp on it, even if you're doing it yourself, it's going to be $1. It's going to be $1 a mailer, and $1 a mailer don't get you much, just stuffing the envelope, the stamp, and the mail is going to be $1. So it can get expensive. So if you got 100 100 places to mail to is going to cost you at least $100. Number two, it's hard to stand out nowadays. One of the biggest reasons is, guys, look here, we all get junk mail. I get so much junk mail. I don't even bring it in the house. I stand there at the mailbox sorting through it, and I just throw it in the trash as I'm walking in the front door. It's hard to stand out a lot. We all just get so much junk mail and stuff. So number three, there's lots of agents that are sending mail, right? So if you're sending mail, not only do you have to cut through the clutter of the regular junk mail we get, but expired listings the day it expires. I've been to listings where the people had a stack of mail that was 5 inches high laying on their table when I got there. A lot of agents send mail because a lot of agents have a fear of the phone, and mail is easy. It's done in a lot of training programs, and it's easy for them to print out something, stuff an envelope, and they feel like they're doing something. They feel like they're being proactive. But the truth is, when you send mail, you're just waiting around hoping to get a call back. Number four, time. It takes time to get delivered. Here's the thing: if you got expired that expires today, you don't do your mailers until this afternoon. It's Saturday when we're recording this, so if you do it today, okay, it's not going to go out until Monday, so they're probably not going to get it till like Wednesday or Thursday. And I mean, it's been almost a week since that thing expired. How many phone calls has that person got? How many people have door knocked them? How many other things have they got? They've had a week to decide what to do with their property. And you guys, sometimes with mail, it's a great follow-up, but sometimes with mail, we're just late to the party, right? So now the positives, guys. Okay, the positives. Number one, if you don't have a contact number, this is one of the next best things. If you don't have a number for them, they live out of town, you can't really door knock them because it's a second home or whatever. Hey, everybody's got an address. Everybody has a tax address. Number two, you can outsource your mailing campaign 100%. There are services out there you can upload the expireds to, and you can 100% never stuff an envelope, never lick a stamp, nothing. You can outsource it 100%. So here's the thing. You can do it anytime. So number three, it takes very little time during the business day. You can literally do mail at midnight sitting in your pajamas, right? Number four, direct mail is a 100% numbers game. So the more mail you send out, the more calls you're going to get. However, your return is going to be very, very low. And that's the thing, is a 100% numbers game. If you send out 100 pieces of mail, if you send out 200 or 300 pieces of mail, sooner or later you're going to get a conversion ratio for that, and you're either going to find that it's either worth it financially or not worth it financially, and you can either scale it up or scale it down or stop it or whatever you want to do. So number five, everybody has a mailing address. I mean, that's the thing. Everybody has. You can either mail it to the house or you can mail it to where their tax bill is going, but typically everybody has a mailing address. So the number three way to contact people is door knocking, right? If they live there, every house has a door, So that's it. I divided this up into positives and negatives. Okay. The positives here, every house has a door. And just like the mail, knocking on doors is a numbers game. Hopefully you catch them home. You either catch them home or you don't catch them home, right? If you knock on enough doors, somebody's going to want to sell their house or somebody's going to want to work with you. It is a numbers game. The negatives, this is the most time intensive, right? Because you got to get out your car, you got to walk out. We're in South Carolina. It's hot today. It's going to take you a while. If you got 5 doors to knock on, here's the other thing, large distances apart. If you got 5 doors to knock on, even if they're, 5 miles apart, man, those 5 doors, that's 25 miles plus getting out of the car, plus if people are home, it may take you a couple of hours to knock on those 5, 7, 10 doors, Number three, the problem with door knocking that I have for a lot of people is safety concerns. You never know who's going to be home. You never know who's going to open the door. There's a lot of crazy things going on. my number one concern with door knocking is safety. You know, if you're going to door knock, you're going to door knock expireds. Make sure somebody knows where you're at. Make sure somebody knows that you're actually going to do it. Just don't jump in the car and go. You know, make sure that you have an emergency contact where if you do need somebody that, you know, you can call, you can text them. You got somebody you know is going to be available. You know, guys, I'm going to go through a simple door knocking script for you. So, hey, Mr. Seller, I'm Jason Morris, and I always try to address them by their name. Hey, are you Mr. Smith? Are you Mr. You know, whatever? Are you Mrs. Whatever? I'm Jason Morris with eXp Realty. Are you still wanting to sell your home? Can I set an appointment with you to come back Tuesday at 2, or can I come back later today when you guys are going to be home? It's going to be a little more convenient. Oh, great. Well, if they say yes, you set an appointment with them. I'd like to send you over some information so you know about me and my company. What's your email address? Just like it's a safety concern for us, it's also a safety concern for the person that you're knocking on their door because they don't know you. Okay, do not try, it's my experience, set a time to return. You're only door knocking for appointments, right? You're not going to get in their house. More than likely, you're not going to get in their house and list the property right then. Okay. And number two, you don't really want to, right? You don't know who's in the house. You don't know these people don't know you. It's a lot better for everybody involved if you say, hey, let's set an appointment for Tuesday at 4 or whatever time, or later on that afternoon. That way you can let somebody know where you're at. They know you're going on a listing appointment. This person, you're sending over your pre-listing package. They can research you a little bit. They know that Jason Morris is a real estate agent. This is one of the important reasons why you want to look like a real estate agent online. You want to make sure you have all your profiles and stuff filled out. That way, when you tell people, hey, I'm Jason Morris from eXp Realty, they can look up Jason Morris with eXp Realty, and they actually know who I am and what I'm doing. And they know that I'm me and I'm really a real estate agent. You know, there's crazy stuff goes on in the world today. So how do you get expired numbers, right? And here's the thing. If you make it too hard getting expired numbers, you're just not going to do it. And this is one of these things that I've told people over and over again, because there's a lot of agents that will want to manually look them up. And we're going to go over, there's really two ways to get them. Number one, you can manually look them up. And when I first started the real estate business, there wasn't any services, right? There wasn't anything that you could just go open your laptop and they're waiting there on you in the morning, right? You had to use whitepages.com, Switchboard. There's so many services where you can actually look them up manually nowadays, but it is extremely time consuming. I mean, extremely time consuming. Number two, you can subscribe to a service. Now, I recommend subscribing to a service. RedX offers my group real estate agents that really works a $150 discount on their service, and they often have some other packages and specials. The link is jasonmorrisredx.com. At the end of this, on the last slide, we'll have some links that you can go to and some helpful links and service. Is I subscribe to the RedX Onyx version, but here's the thing: if you're manually looking them up, you're spending 2 or 3 hours in the afternoon looking them up so you can call for an hour in the morning. Man, that 2 or 3 hours that you spent looking up numbers, you could have been on the phone dialing numbers, right? So now here's something I want to tell you. Okay, expired data. I want to explain expired data to you, and I'll explain subscribing to an expired service, because I feel like a lot of agents out there, they subscribe to a service and they don't understand what an expired number service is, right? And here's the thing, and they immediately go, oh, all of them are bad numbers, all of them are bad leads. Now, here's the thing. These expired services, this is not user submitted data like for sale by owners, right? If you're subscribing to a for sale by owner service, more than likely, if there's 10 numbers, 9 of them are going to be right every single time, right? Expired services, this is mined data. This is data that they've actually, that this expired service has created an algorithm, and they're trying to figure out who lives at 123 Main Street, who lives at 123 Main Street, what in their database has ever been associated with 123 Main Street. And sometimes, you know, they try to get as high quality as they can, but sometimes your first call through this expired data is you're scrubbing the data. Like with Red Exonics, you get an average of 2.5 to 3 numbers per address. Now, here's the thing. Those numbers are numbers that were associated with that address. So sometimes you get the last person that lived there. Sometimes you get their kid on the phone. Sometimes you even get the next door neighbor. But this is data that it's somehow in a database somewhere, that phone number was associated with this house or this piece of property, right? So lots of times your first call through the expired list, you're just scrubbing the data. And that's the thing I like about Red Exonics is you get a lot of data. So typically you get a number that is actually goes to somebody in the household, right? So, but here's the thing you got to understand. When you're subscribing to a service, even if you're looking them up manually, you know, we don't have the databases that some of these expired services have access to because we can't afford it as an individual agent. But even the services that we do have to look them up manually with, you're going to have bad numbers, right? And these services, you're going to have bad numbers because we live in a world where, hey, we can run down to Walmart and change your cell phone plan in 15 minutes. You know, you can be with AT&T this morning and T-Mobile this afternoon, you know, with a whole brand new number. So that is one of the things that we're never going to overcome. There's not going to be a service that's perfect. There are services that are better than others. However, you're going to have bad numbers. What you need to look at is how many numbers you do have and focus on the right numbers, not the wrong numbers, right? So what do you do once you get an appointment? So you've been making calls. You've been making calls. You've been working hard. You've been getting out there. You've been doing doing what you're supposed to do every morning. And you are you got a solid lead, you got an appointment, you just had a meaningful conversation with a person, right? The first thing that you need to do is you need to send out your pre-listing package. And if you guys don't have a pre-listing package, you can go download mine at jasonmorrisprelistingpackage.com, but you need to have a pre-listing package. Okay, your pre-listing package is your plan for selling their house, right? Your pre-listing package is the service that you offer. That's the service you offer. They are hiring you because, like we talked about a few minutes ago, these people have a problem. Their last agent failed them. Their last agent's plan failed them, right? The last agent probably never actually showed them a plan. So that makes it even a little bit easier for you guys because you have a plan that you're going to be able to email over to them. You're going to be able to print out and hand them. You're showing them exactly what you're going to do. You need to send your pre-listing package as soon as you have a meaningful conversation with the people. Now, this is what it's going to do for you. Number one, your pre-listing package is going to give you a lot of confidence. You're not sitting at an appointment. You're not fumbling around thinking, oh man, did I remember this? Did I remember that? Did I remember to tell them that I'm going to fly my drone over their house, right? Did I remember to tell them that I'm going to get professional photography, or I'm going to do an open house on Tuesday, or whatever it is? You don't have to remember that. So you're going to have a lot of confidence, and you're going to send this to them before. So when you get there, they're already going to know who you are, right? Number two, it's going to make you appear to be extremely professional. In every industry in the world, pretty much, they have some sort of paperwork, some sort of brochure, or something that they send over to people. Every successful company, I should say. They have something they're going to send over that's going to talk about their product or services, right? Except for real estate agents. Most of us have nothing. We just show up and hope for the best, right? So number three, it's going to establish expectations for your client. Okay, now your pre-listing package. One of the biggest problems I see with agents is agents create systems that are unsustainable for themselves. And they believe that they have to do certain things. They believe that they have to hire a professional photographer. They believe that they have to have drone footage. They believe they have to do all these things. And and they say, oh, my clients expect it. More than likely, 99 out of 100 of your clients do not expect some of the things that you feel like you have to do. What happened was you told them you were going to do it. Now they expect it. You set that expectation for your client. If your client expects you to have 2 open houses a month, did you tell them you were going to do 2 open houses a month? Okay. Here's the thing. This pre-listing package, you need to put in it. Whatever you're going to do for your client, you need to put in it, right? If it's something that now this plan needs to be for every single listing. If you have something extra you want to do for this listing, right? Maybe it's $1 million home. Maybe you do want to hire that professional photographer. You do want to do something really special for it. That's fine. But if it's not something you're going to do for every single listing, do not put it in your pre-listing package. Number 4, this pre-listing package is going to establish value. They're going to be able to look at it and they're going to go, oh man, did my last agent do that? Oh man, did Joe's cousin who said he could list the house for us, are they going to do this stuff? They haven't given me anything. Number 5, and we talked about this a second ago, it shows your potential clients that you have a plan for their house, right? Okay, my favorite line to use when they tell me that they're interviewing other agents, my favorite number 1 line is, gosh, guys, well, I'm going to send you over my pre-listing package. That way you know about me and my company and what we do to sell houses. You have a copy of my marketing plan. That other agent that you're interviewing, why don't you request theirs too? That way you can lay mine side by side with theirs and you can figure out who's got the best plan, who's going to give you the most service for your the dollars that you're going to be spending when it sells. That way you can compare apples to apples. And 99% of agents don't have anything, right? So what happens next is basically you go, oh my gosh, are they just going to stick a sign in your front yard and just hope for the best? But this pre-listing package shows your clients that you have a plan. And number 6, it builds trust. All of this that we're doing today and talking about today is building trust with your clients. That's the number 1 thing you have, because if they don't trust you, they are not going to work with you, right? This plan that you're giving them, this pre-listing package that is in writing, builds trust. They're looking at it and they're going, man, Jason Morris is going to do all this for me, right? So now this pre-listing package, if you guys have one, I'm going to tell you this isn't my slides here, but I'm going to tell you this. If you got a plan that's 50 pages, a pre-listing package that's 50 pages, and you're sending it and you don't feel like you're getting results from it, it's because nobody's looking at it. Think about it. When you get a PDF sent to you, basically unsolicited PDF from somebody that's 50 pages, and it's all text and it's all 10 and 12 point type, do you even look at it? I'll be honest with you, I don't. You need your pre-listing package. It needs to be 10, 12 pages long. It needs to have some pictures, needs to have a little bit of stuff about you, a little bit of stuff about the company, some question and answer. Like I said, guys, you guys can download mine. Here you go. You guys can download mine at jasonmorrisprelistingpackage.com. Use that as a template. That plan works. It's listed tons and tons of properties for me over the years, and it's kind of evolved a little bit. Take that, put your information in. You can dress it up a little bit if you want to. It's pretty basic, pretty simple, but use that format. Here, guys, 99% of agents have nothing to send a client. Okay, and if you don't believe me, go around your office and start asking agents, hey, do you have a pre-listing package? A lot of them are going to tell you that you don't need one. Then ask them, what's their closing ratio on appointments? And then ask them, how many properties have they listed in the last 3 months, right? 99% of agents have nothing to send a client, or if they do, it's something that's so labor intensive to get it to them that they're just not going to do it. If we make it too difficult, we're just not going to do it. Guys, this is an idea that I've developed over the last few years, and this is from my coaching, is from coaching that I've been a part of, coaching I've done, is we do not sell houses, right? And this is hard for a lot of people to believe. We sell a service that sells houses. We just get paid on that service's performance. Our listing our listing, our pre-listing package is that brochure that tells about the service that we offer. We do not sell houses. We sell a service that sells houses. We get paid on that service's performance, guys. Okay, guys, the next thing you guys need when you're calling those people, you're following up with them, you have that meaningful conversation. You guys, you have to have a follow-up system, right? Now, I believe that you guys need to have a written follow-up system, and I'm going to give you some ideas on how to do it. I'm going to give you some ideas for the expireds that you haven't talked to, and I'm going to give you some ideas for the expireds that you have talked to, and then I'm going to give you my 3 favorite follow-up scripts and stuff. Now, this is after you've had an initial conversation, or maybe you haven't had an initial conversation, but you have to have a follow-up system, and you have to map out what exactly are you going to do for each one of these expired listings that you get that you're going to choose to call, right? If you're not going to follow up, honestly, there's almost no reason to make the initial call. 80% of sales are done the 5th through the 12th follow-up. I typically just assume that I'm going to have to follow up 12 to 15 times with a client before I'm going to get the listing or get the listing appointment. Now, follow-up systems for expired you haven't talked to. Number 1, the expired that you haven't talked to, you're going to follow up every day at different times for at least the first week, right? If you called them in the morning, you didn't get them. Some people work during the day, some people work in the afternoon, some people work at night. Follow up at different times during the day. If you don't get them at 8 o'clock in the morning, maybe try 12 noon. A lot of people check their messages. A lot of people go home for lunch. A lot of people get off at 5, try them in the afternoons. And try them on Saturday, try them on Sunday, follow up every day at different times. Now, if you're using Onyx, you're going to get email addresses and you're going to get cell phone numbers, right? So the listings, I pick out the expired listings I really want to go after, and I call, text, and I email them. You want to exhaust. Number 3, don't hold back. You want to exhaust every method of getting in touch with them. If it is an expired that's in your price range, it's in your area, it's in your target that you want to go after, don't hold back, right? A lot of agents who go, oh, well, I called yesterday and I left them a message, and I hadn't heard back anything from them, and, maybe they'll call me back. Guys, if you're not following up with them, believe me, there's another agent that is, right? You need to call, you need to text. If you got their email them. Don't hold back. If you want to send them something in the mail, send them something in the mail, but you need to exhaust all efforts to get in touch with that person. If it is, and you need to build that mindset, if it's in your area, right? If it's in your area, it's in your target, it's the property type you work with, that sort of thing, don't hold back. After that first week, I'd follow up at least weekly for a month. I'd follow up bi-weekly maybe for another month, put them in a long-term follow-up program where you're trying to call them at least once a month. Typically, guys, I see about 1/3 of the listings get relisted immediately, about 1/3 of the listings relist within about 30 days, and then 1/3, only God knows what happens to them. But it isn't that they don't want to sell their house anymore lots of times. It's just the house it came off the market. They turned their phone off the week that they expired. Only God knows what they did or, what happens and stuff. Now, follow up for leads that you have talked to. Guys, the lead that you talk to, that you had that meaningful conversation with, you need to follow up quickly, right? If they tell you to call them on Tuesday and it's Friday, I'd go ahead and call them on Saturday. Call them on Saturday. You want to build value with each follow-up call, but I'd follow up quickly and I'd follow up often, right? Sometimes you have to get creative with your follow-up, because sometimes people are just busy. You know what? People call me all the time. It isn't that I don't want to talk to them or I'm not interested in their service. Hey, it's just I'm busy and I can't talk to them right now. Like right now, gosh, I've had people call me since I was on this webinar. It isn't that I don't want to talk to them. It's just I'm busy right now. I can't get to them. And, honestly, once this ends, I got other stuff I'm going to do. I got to do. Then I got to go home. I got the dog. I got the baby. I got Laura. I got all this stuff going on today, and I'm going to try to get back to them today, but if I don't, it isn't because I don't want to talk to them. It's just that, hey, I had stuff going on today, man. I'm sorry, and honestly, by the end of the day, I might have already forgot about them. And, Monday rolls around, Monday starts a new week. It isn't that I don't want to talk to them on Monday. It's just, hey, Monday's got a whole new list of problems. Everybody is the same. If just because they didn't answer the phone for you today, just because you left that voicemail and they didn't follow back up with you, just because you sent them a text and they didn't respond immediately, that does not mean they don't want to work with you. It just means they were busy, right? Don't take it personally. Build value with every follow-up. And I'm going to share with you my 3 favorite follow-up scripts. Stay confident. Number 5, have a sense of urgency. Right? Every call, you need to have a sense of urgency. There is no better time to get your house on the market than right now. Buyers are looking. It's the middle of the summer. It's the middle of the winter, whatever it is. So, you know what? In the middle of the summer, we have a lot of people coming in town, and we got a lot of people looking. That's a fact. In the winter months, you know what? We don't have as many showings, guys, but the showings that we do typically get are really good, because these people are seriously looking at homes, right? Every call needs to have a sense of urgency. Hey, we just sold some down the street. We just done this. We just done that. We've had buyers looking in your neighborhood. Every call and every follow-up you make needs to have a sense of urgency. And you need to use multiple resources. Number 6, you need to use multiple forms of communication with them: call, text, and email, right? Okay, guys, I'm gonna give you a little tip here. It's not in this. A lot of depending on the market you're in and depending on your age demographics or your market, some people aren't as tech savvy as what we are. Right? Some agents, we do video, text, we do. Oh my God, we've got so many things. It ain't gonna be long until we're trying to send 3D images of ourselves to people. Right? The way technology is going. Here's the thing. I live in a second home market. A lot of my market is an older demographic. They don't have the latest iPhone or the latest Samsung Galaxy 8. You know what I mean? So sometimes if we're sending video text and they got a flip phone, can they even see it? You know what I mean? Some of these people that I work with, they're retirees. This is a second home. You know what? They don't text. They have an old flip phone. So guys, if you're using some of the technology out there that's more advanced, and you're not getting a lot of response to it, the problem might not be that they don't respond to you. It's they get the message from you. They just don't know what to do with it when they get it. So, guys, my 3 favorite follow-up scripts, right? And you guys, write these down. You can print this out. You'll have a copy of this PowerPoint presentation there in the group. Follow-up script number 1 is basically, hey, Mr. Seller, I was doing some research and I just realized we've sold 3 homes right around yours in the last 2 weeks. We've had 4 homes go under contract right around yours. And I typically look in the neighborhood and I look up a 2-mile radius and I'm looking on MLS and I'm talking generally about whatever went under contract. But I was doing some research and I noticed, and we've had 3 homes go under contract in the last 3 weeks. I talked to you 3 weeks ago. Since we talked, there's been 3 homes to go under contract. I feel like we may have missed a buyer. When do you want me to start working for you? Right? That's follow-up script number 1. Follow-up script number 2. Hey, Mr. Seller, have you guys sold your home yet? And this is usually a week. You've had that meaningful conversation with them. Have you guys sold your home yet? Guys, look, I'm going to be in your area on Thursday. Pick a day. Pick a day that's convenient for you, a day that maybe you're really going to be in the area. I'm going to be in your area on Thursday. I want to see if you'd be home about 4 p.m. I'd like to stop by. Will that work for you guys? And either they'll tell you yes or no. Sometimes they say, oh, what do you want to stop by for? Well, I want to stop by, take a look at your house. You still want to sell it, right? But you specify the date. You specify the time. You are the one that decides, just like we talked about in the dentist appointment example, you are the one that decides when to meet the people, because here's the fact. If you give them the opportunity to set the appointment themselves, if they say, hey, I need to talk to my wife. I need to do this. I need to do that. I'll have to call you back. They will not call you back. That's just the truth. That's a fact, right? So you specify the day and the time. Follow-up script number 3. Hey, Mr. Seller, I was in your area yesterday showing houses. Has your home sold? And they go, more than likely, Hopefully they go no. And you say, oh my gosh, I can't believe that. Our office has so many going under contract. When do you want me to start working for you? I can fit you in my schedule to meet you tomorrow, right? And you just go, when do you want me to start working for you? And you just go right to the next question. I can fit you in my schedule to meet you tomorrow, right? So you specify the day, you specify the time. You talk about the number of properties your office has go under contract. If you're at a really small office, talk about the number of properties in the area that's went under contract. Either way, you need to build a sense of urgency, right? You can't believe their house didn't sold. I can sell your house for you. You need to be confident on every one of these things. Okay, I got a bonus follow-up script. This is my holiday script, guys. My holiday script. Mr. Seller, now I'm using July 4th as an example here. Mr. Seller, this week, we got July 4th this weekend. There's going to be a lot of people off working in town looking at houses. I wanted to call you and see if I could meet you Tuesday to get your house on the market. I don't want you guys to miss a buyer. Stress that. There's going to be a lot of people in town. There's going to be a lot of people looking into houses. I don't want you to miss a buyer. Guys, you want them to feel like if they don't get their house on the market and they don't get you working for them this weekend, they are going to miss a buyer. There again, you specify the day, you specify the time, and this script substitute July 4th for any holiday. 3-day weekends are fantastic. 3-day weekends are fantastic. It could be a flag day, whatever day. If it's a day that people are off of work, it counts as a holiday and you should use it. Guys, then follow up after. If they tell you no, follow up with them after the holiday. Hey, I just wanted to call you and see how things went this weekend. I know you guys still want to sell your house. You still got you got that for sale by owner sign out front or whatever it is. Gosh, guys, I was really busy this weekend. We got this or we got that, or, look up on MLS, see how many went pending this weekend or whatever, and follow up with them. When you follow up with them, every follow-up needs to have a sense of urgency. Every follow-up needs to have a sense of urgency, and every single follow-up needs to have a every follow-up you need to make them feel like they are missing something because they're not working with you. Tell them what's going on in the market, right? If one went under contract down the street from them this weekend, you need to call them and tell them about it. Every follow-up needs to have a sense of urgency, and you need to try to build value on every single follow-up, right? So let's talk about the listing appointment. Let's talk about what happens when you get in the door. Now, for you guys that have been listening to me for a while and you guys are part of my group coaching program, every appointment has 4 presentations, right? 4 presentations to every listing appointment. Number 1 is the listing presentation. Number 2 is the pricing presentation. Number 3 is the net sheet presentation. Number 4 is the paperwork presentation. Guys, I wanted this to be a full system for you. I wanted it to be something that you could look at, be a standalone system for you. That way you guys could look at this, make notes, and go out there and take action. And you guys could be completely prepared for going on these expired appointments. Even if you haven't seen my other training, you haven't seen the other stuff I'm doing, I want you guys to be prepared. So the listing presentation, what do you do on the appointment? Now, this is always something that a lot of agents have a problem with. A lot of coaching programs don't really tell you what to do on the appointment. So what happens is a lot of agents, they set an appointment and they get it confused. And they think it's a social visit. And guys, I'll tell you, I'm guilty of this. I've done this in the past before. One of my biggest mistakes that I was making with the listings is I would set 10 listing appointments a week. And I was lucky to get 2 listings. I'd go to their house. They'd love me. We'd talk about football. We'd talk about their grandkids. We'd talk about hunting and fishing, cars, whatever they wanted to talk about. Man, I would leave there. The people would invite me to dinner. They're telling me I need to come back and go fishing in the pond with them and, all this stuff. People would love me. And then a week later, I'd realize their house was listed with somebody else. So What I learned though was that just like your doctor's appointment, right? You go to the doctor because you have a sore throat. The only reason you are there is because you have a sore throat. The only reason the doctor is there is because it's their job. You guys might know each other. You might have a lot of people in common. Your kids might go to school together, whatever it is. But that doctor's appointment isn't a social visit, right? If it was a social visit, you guys would probably have coffee or dinner or something, and it's not. The listing presentation and the listing appointment is not a social visit. Typically, I try to make mine last about 30 minutes. And I try to make it last about 30 minutes. And here's the thing, guys. This is what your listing presentation needs to include and you need to do. Your presentation needs to be practiced and rehearsed. Guys, you need to be mindful of what you're doing, the way you're approaching the front door, everything that you're doing in this process. You need to practice it. You need to rehearse it. You need to practice it by yourself at your house when you're home by yourself. Go preview a few listings, practice it in those. But here's the thing. You want to practice going through the house. And the more appointments you go on, the more you're going to practice this anyway, right? But you need to practice it. You go to the front door. This is what mine typically looks like. I go to the front door. I knock on the door. I step back a few steps. That way they can see me. Because, right, we don't want them to be scared to open the door. Because I've seen a lot of agents and I've seen a lot of people, they knock on their door, then they step back a couple steps and they turn around backwards and all they can see is the back of your head. They don't know who's there at their door. If somebody does that at my door, I don't have a lot of people knocking on my door, but if they do it at my door, I may not open it for them unless I know they're coming. It's creepy. It does not build trust. You go there, you hand them a couple of your business cards as soon as you're walking through. I typically comment on the weather, something that everybody can agree on. Then as soon as we get through that initial little introduction, I always ask, say, hey, if the husband and wife are there, I say, hey, who wants to give me the tour? I always tour the home with the seller. That way we can talk. I know a lot of agents like to look at the home by themselves, and they got this idea that, oh, I'm going to look at it through the eyes of the buyer. Here's the problem. You're looking at their house by themselves. Number one, once you tell somebody, hey, guys, you sit on the couch and let me go around your bedroom and look at your stuff, how much trust are you building with that? Do they really want you looking in there where they got their jewelry box and grandma's heirlooms or whatever? Most people do not want you to tour their home on the first visit by yourself on the listing appointment. That's a fact. They might not tell you that, but if you tour the home with them, you have a chance to talk with them, right? You can confirm the price. And that's important because, they gave you the price on the phone. Hopefully you confirmed it when you went through the front door, but while you're looking at the house, you're looking around at things and you go, hey, Mr. Seller, you told me on the phone you wanted $150,000. Is that correct? Oh, well, that's fantastic. Oh, man, you told me you put down new hardwood floors. Confirm all the details given during the initial call. So you go, oh, man, these floors look good. You and your wife put these down yourselves? Man, that's fantastic. Oh, you said you just painted, or you said it needed to be painted, right? I try to be as honest as possible when going through the house with them. Okay, so what I mean by this is if their carpet's dirty or there's something that I see that's going to be a problem, I want to point that out, right? If I see a stain on the ceiling, I want to ask about it. Hey, Mr. Seller, well, look here, you got a stain up there. When buyers come through here, they're going to see that. Do you guys have a roof leak? I know you mentioned that you just replaced the roof. And I always ask, what do you think we should do about that? I try to offer some solution, and that solution is either something that's really cost effective. If it's something like the carpet, like say, hey, we're going through the house, the carpet's dirty. I never talk about a problem without presenting a solution. And I think that's something really important. Chances are they already know what the problem is, and they don't really know how to fix it lots of times. So if the carpet's dirty, you might go, hey, Mr. Seller, these carpets, do you think they'll come clean? Do you think we could have them cleaned, or do you want to offer some sort of credit? If they tell you no, then you just continue on through everything, right? But you've made it known, you've made them aware that it could be a problem. if the walls have holes in them, whatever it is, you want to be honest, you want to be upfront, you really want to be brutally honest. If there is a horrible pet odor, if there is an odor of pet urine, if there is pet feces in the floor, hey guys, so when people come by, are you guys going to clean this up? I had one a while back where the house had expired 3 or 4 times off MLS, and it was kind of a little bit confusing for me because I looked at the house, the pictures looked good, house was priced right. I show up to meet the house, and what I realized was these people had a giant dog. I mean, this dog was walking around the yard with a half inflated basketball in his mouth. And I seen the dog when I pulled up, and I was like, oh my God, I'm not typically scared of dogs, but this thing was like a horse. So I actually called the lady on the phone and I said, hey, I just wanted to make sure that you guys were home. I just pulled up and I seen your dog. So she comes out. Turns out the dog was super friendly. The dog walking through the house, though, the dog was right on my heels. The dog was taking this basketball, bumping into the backs of my legs. We sit down at the table to go over the paperwork, and this dog sits down too. And this dog was literally so big. He was just about as tall as I was. When I was sitting down, he'd sit down and he was about the same height as me. We were just about looking eye to eye. Honestly, I would have never gotten out in her yard with buyer clients. And when I was talking to her, I asked her, I said, well, what about showings? Have you guys got any showings? And she said, people schedule showings with me, but then they don't show up. What was happening was they were pulling up in the yard. They were seeing this giant dog and they were turning around and leaving. So I had to tell her, hey, look, we got to do something with the dog. Can you lock him in the bedroom? Can you do something with him, when we have showings? Or can you just be home? And I told her, hey, look, I'm not scared of dogs. He's really friendly. I understand that, because everybody thinks their dog is the friendliest dog ever. And they might be, I've got a big dog. My dog's 65 pounds and he will lick you to death, but he has a ferocious bark, right? Our landscapers don't want to come in our house because they're scared of our dog, right? And if you see something like that, that's a problem. That's probably why that house expired. Right. That was why her house expired. As soon as we got this dog thing taken care of, I put in the agent remarks, please schedule an appointment. Seller has large dog. He is very friendly. However, he looks scary, right? You want to make sure that you prepare. You want to make sure that you are very honest and open about anything you see as a problem. Now, when you're walking through the house, everything you talk about needs to be we. When we do this, when we bring buyers, when we have people come over, everything is we. You want to talk as if you are already working with them throughout the whole presentation. Now, this is your presentation, right? This is you going through the house, right? So the next thing we have the pricing presentation. Okay, typically after I go through the house, it usually takes me 10 to 15 minutes to go through the house. As soon as I finish the house, I usually go, hey, Mr. Seller or Miss Seller, I do a lot of research before I come to somebody's house. I'd like to show you what I found. And I do this for expired listings. Any listing appointment, I do the pricing presentation. You want to have an easy to explain pricing strategy. You want to have a strategy that they can buy into, right? And my strategy is a little bit different because a lot of agents use a sold strategy. And I want to go down through that first. I use an active strategy. I'm going to go down through a sold strategy, what's happening in an active strategy, and how it actually makes a lot more sense. It's easier to explain. And then I'm going to tell you how to do it. So the sold strategy. Okay, you're pricing the house using old data. Using data that, the house sold 6 months ago, and I see I got a typo on my slide. You can't buy the house that sold 6 months ago. That house down the street that sold for $80,000, you can't buy that house, right? That house isn't available. That house is not available. It is not going to come available. If it does come available in a time frame that a serious buyer would be looking, it's probably not going to be at that price that it sold 6 months ago. all that matters really is what you can buy today. With a sold pricing strategy, you're using old data, and honestly, it's kind of hard to explain. You know, the cheapest house on the market is 125,000. You're showing them data that shows that theirs should be listed at 85,000. I've seen agents actually even do a pricing strategy where they're using comparables that were a year old. Think about it in your market. How much has stuff changed in the last year? How much in a lot of markets across the country, how much has changed in the last 30, 60, 90 days? I tell you what, in some markets like Las Vegas, I had an agent tell me they had less than 30 days worth of inventory. So if you are using sold data that is 60, 90 days old, if you're using a comparable from the community to figure out where you should price it at, then that is old data. And sometimes that last sold might have been at $150,000, but the cheapest one in the community today is at $200,000, right? And it's exactly like the house you're going on appointment at. The active pricing strategy, you're using active competition. You're pricing the house based on what it is competing against, not what is sold. It's just like, hey, if you want to go buy a new suit, right? And you go to the suit store, all you have to look at is what is there. And you know what? You want to buy a black suit. They got 3 black suits. One's a little bit cheaper than the other. You got a low price one, a medium price one, and an expensive one. All you're looking at is price and features, right? You already know you want a black suit. Your buyers are just like that today. They want a 3-bedroom house with a 3-bedroom house, 2 bathrooms, and a 2-car garage. All they have to choose from is what they have today, right? They only have, that's their only options. If they don't want to spend the money, if they don't find an option that works for them at the price that they want to work for, they have really 2 options. Either they can wait, which prices don't seem to be going down in most of the country right now, or they can go to another area, right? So when they go to another area, maybe they're not going to get the same quality. Maybe they're not going to get the same school district. Maybe they're not going to be as close to their favorite stores or their job. But all they have to choose from today is what's on the market. Typically with an active pricing strategy in today's market, you get a little bit higher price. It's easier to explain. It's easier to show a client, hey, look, guys, I know you want $175,000 for your house. That's fantastic. This one down the street's listed for $179. This one over here is listed for $165, but maybe it doesn't have the sunroom you have. You can go down through, you can show them where their house is and how it competes with the competition and how it competes with what buyers' choices are today. Versus the sold strategy, you're showing them how their house is comparable to a house that sold 6 months ago. And honestly, in today's world, it just does not make sense. Buyers have more information than they ever have had before. However, they still only have the choices that are active on today's market. Now, with the pricing presentation, the active pricing strategy, you want to use active listings not sold. You're pricing against the available competition. What you typically do is you pull up the neighborhood, you pull a 2-mile radius, and you pull the homes that are actually comparable to your subject property, right? And the reason why you do it is sometimes you don't have them that are comparable. Custom home communities, you're going to have to look at number of bedrooms and square footage. But what you need to do is you need to know why each home is priced more or less than the subject property. And typically you're only going to have maybe 8 or 10 houses. Sometimes in my market right now, you're going to have 3 houses. You're going to have to go out a mile. You're going to have to go out 2 miles. Sometimes if it's a more rural area, you might have to go out 3 or 4 miles. If it's a mobile, let's say, for example, it's a mobile home on a half acre, which is common in the more rural parts of my market, you might have to go out 2 or 3 miles, 5 miles. You might have to look and see what else is in the area under 100,000. And, how does this compare? Some markets you might go, hey, they're wanting $175,000 for their house. Let's see what's in the area under 200,000. How does it compare with that? But with your pricing strategy, you want to over prepare. Print out the comparables if you have to. You want to show them that you've done a lot of research. I've been doing this pricing strategy for so long. Once you've been doing it for a little while, you get into a routine. You figure out how to do it easy. It takes about 5 minutes to pull comparables, maybe. But you want to over prepare, make you some notes and things like that. Okay. The next thing is the net sheet presentation. with this net sheet, you're building trust, right? You're going to show them exactly what they're going to put in their pocket. And you're going to include these things here. But what this net sheet does for you, it's going to justify your commission. It's going to justify a lot of stuff, but it's going to show them exactly what they're going to put in their pocket. They're going to know what they're going to walk away with, or at least have a good idea what they're going to walk away with. Now, your net sheet, I've seen some of these lender net sheets and stuff that are absolutely insane. They have so much stuff that they just don't make a lot of sense, right? So some of these net sheets, with your net sheet, number one, you want to put all common fees in a transaction, right? Like in my market, it's pretty customary for the seller to pay for the termite inspection. We call it the CL 100. So I include that on the net sheet. Okay, typically it's $60 to $80. I put $100 in there just because I want to make sure that it's, I'd rather it be $60 and I've told them it's going to be $100. Everybody's usually fine if they walk away with a little bit more money. Put your title, if you're a title state, put your typical title fees. If you're attorney state, I put attorney fees. We have a transfer tax here. That's a common fee in the transaction. I do an estimate of that. I estimate on the high end of things. I put my full real estate commission. I always do 3 columns. On my net sheet, right? And for you guys in my group coaching program, you go to the files section on the Facebook group, and you can actually get a copy of my net sheet from there, or you can go to jasonmorris prelistingpackage.com, download the pre-listing package, and in the link download link, it'll have the net sheet too. But mine has 3 columns. It has a low, a medium, and a high. Now I put the preferred listing price in that middle column, right? And I like to highlight the middle column. When I print it out, I like to print it in color in that middle column. As you usually print out a high, like a light yellow. Now, you need to make sure that your pricing strategy and your net sheet tell the same story, right? You don't want to show up with a net sheet showing them where they're going to get 150,000, but a pricing strategy showing where the house is worth 250, or vice versa. You don't want to show up. You want your pricing strategy. You want your net sheet to support the pricing strategy. You want it all to make sense. You're building a case, and you're building trust, and you're showing them that you have a plan, a complete plan, right? So you want to make sure that your pricing strategy and your pricing strategy and your net sheet are working together. Right? The worst thing you can do is have a net sheet and a pricing strategy that tell 2 different stories. Okay, the next thing we have is the paperwork presentation. And guys, I went through a lot of this fairly quickly. Paperwork presentation, you guys need to show up prepared. I mean, the worst thing to do is to show up unprepared. I'm going to give you guys some tips and some hints on what I like to do. Number 1, your paperwork presentation. I like to show up with mine printed out on real paper. I know there's a lot of agents that like to be paperless. They like to do it with an iPad or a tablet. And that's fantastic. If you're sending it to them, and you are doing it so that it is, you're sending it to them in its digital signature, then that is fantastic that you can do that if you're emailing it to them and you have pretty tech savvy clients. But if you're sitting there face to face, I'm going to tell you, printing it out, it's a lot easier to go down through. It's a lot easier for them to ask questions. It's a lot easier for them to go back through it. Sometimes people that don't use tablets or iPads and you're trying to do it with digital signature, it's hard for them to go back through. It's hard for them to look over things. Some people, if depending on, their familiarity with technology, depending on how technologically advanced they are, some people get a little bit intimidated by iPads and tablets and having to sign things on them, I use real paper. I show up, I have it completely filled out, and I highlight every place they need to initial and sign, right? Then the thing I see agents do that is the worst thing ever, and I realized this a couple years ago, is they can't properly explain the paperwork without reading it word for word. Guys, and I want to talk about this for just a second with you. I see this over and over again. If you're going on listing appointments and you're sitting there, your seller's eyes look like they're about to roll back in their head. They're looking at you. You get down to the, they've loved everything that you've said. They like the price you talked about. They like the net sheet you talked about. And then all of a sudden at the end, they're going, we're going to have to look over this before we can sign anything. If they are doing that to you and you are getting that objection often, what is happening is it is more than likely the way that you are explaining the paperwork to them, right? Lots of times they will take and they just get intimidated. They get intimidated. And, we forget as agents that we see this paperwork all the time. We live and breathe this stuff. This is a legal document. It's got a lot of big words in it. It's got a lot of scary stuff. It's got most listing agreements have that old sex offender registry. I've had clients that thought that sex offender paragraph meant they were responsible for sex offenders. That's not the case. You guys want to be able to properly explain the paperwork, and you want to be able to explain it like on a 5th grade level, right? You want to be able to explain it in a kind and gentle way. Well, you want to go down through it completely, but you want to make sure it's kind and gentle. You want to show that you understand what it says. You want to make them feel comfortable with it. You want to sit down with your paperwork. You need to script this out. I can't help you script it out. I'm only familiar with the South Carolina paperwork. That's where I'm licensed. The other states, what you need to do, you might get your broker in charge to help you with this, get another agent in the office to help you with it if you're having some problems. But you want to go down through paragraph by paragraph, write a short explanation of what that paragraph means, basically you want to script it out for yourself. Then you want to practice this script over and over so you can go down through it. And it's easy, right? You want to be able to properly explain the paperwork without reading it word for word. This is one of the most important things that every agent needs to practice, new and existing agents. I've seen it with new and existing agents. Sometimes I don't believe that the broker in charge is out there. There's broker in charges at big offices. They teach the classes and they cannot explain it in an easy, simple way. They typically stand up there in front of the class. They tell scary stories that happened one time in the history of your state's real estate commission. And then what happens is new agents, they go out and they tell that same story their broker in charge said. People go, oh my God, we can't sign that. That's crazy, right? One of the most important things that every agent needs to practice is going over your paperwork, role playing your paperwork, and getting a good handle and a good familiarity with it. And typically in most places, I know in South Carolina, we got about five PDFs. We got about 5 pieces of paperwork that we use over and over again out of 100 and something that Zip Forms provides us. Guys, you need to do this for every single piece of paperwork that you guys have that you're using over and over again. So guys, one of the things I want to talk to you about some today is objections, right? I want to talk to you about objections and the 5 common objections that we have. Okay, number 1 objection, well, these are no particular order, but these objections, what I encourage you to do is I encourage you to role play them. I encourage you to write them down, get a role play partner, and how easy would things be and how much more business would you do if you role played these 5 objections every single day? And I'm gonna give you some ideas on how to go over them or how to overcome them. Number 1, we don't want to work with an agent. Guys, this is the thing, and this is the truth. Hey guys, if I was not a real estate agent, typically, let's just say, for example, 3% of a commission on a $200,000 house, that's $6,000. If we say 6% commission on a $200,000 house, that's $12,000. Hey, if I was not a real estate agent, and we're just using those percentages as examples, but if I was not a real estate agent, man, that's $12,000. I don't want to pay $12,000 to anybody to sell my house. Man, I wouldn't want to work with a real estate agent either, right? That's a lot of money. Honestly, if I seen that and I never sold a house before, I might have a little bit of sticker shock, right? We don't want to work with an agent. Sometimes they've had an agent that was mean to them. They had an agent they knew they didn't like. Maybe they don't trust agents. They think people are just going to come in and out of their house like crazy, but we don't want to work with an agent. Guys, here's the thing. One of the things that you do is you focus on their needs, not yours, right? I understand you don't want to work with an agent, but you do want to sell your house, right? Let them answer yes, they want to sell their house. Then continue the script, right? Sometimes it isn't that. Sometimes with expires, they're not upset with you. They're not upset with. They're upset with the situation they're in. It isn't that they don't want to work with an agent. They just don't want to. They just don't want to go through what they just went through. They had no activity. They had no person that was help. They didn't feel like they had no person that was helping them. They had somebody that wouldn't call them back. This is not directed at you. This objection is not directed at you. It is directed at all the other agents out there that's not going to call them back, do the same thing as the last person, right? I don't want to work with an agent. Okay, no problem. You do want to sell your house there, right? Establish they want to sell their house. Continue the script. We don't want to pay a commission. Guys, the whole time I've been in the real estate industry, this is the number one objection. I mean, we don't want to work with an agent. We don't want to pay a commission. That's number 1 and 2. Guys, I wouldn't want to work with an agent either. I wouldn't want to pay a commission either. Gosh, there's a lot of real estate agents out there. The reason why they got a license, they joined the board, is because, hey, they were buying and selling a lot of property. They got tired of paying real estate commissions. Believe me, on a $200,000 house at a 6% commission rate, I wouldn't want to pay $12,000 either. That's fantastic. Hey, we don't want to pay a commission. This again, focus on their needs, not yours. A lot of agents are like, well, I need this, I need that. That's fantastic. Ask them, hey guys, hey, no problem. How much do you want to walk away with your house, right? Focus on what they want to walk away with. Focus on what they believe they need to fix their problem. Remember back when we talked about this at the beginning of this conversation, at the beginning of this webinar, these people typically have a problem that they want to fix. Okay, your job, they believe that the way to fix this problem is to sell their property, sell this house, sell whatever it is. Okay, they believe that selling this house is going to fix their problem, and lots of times they believe they have to have a certain dollar amount, right? Focus on what they want to walk away with. Use your net sheet in this situation. You want to walk away with $150,000. Okay, so depending on the real estate commission, depending on, your closing costs, all the seller closing costs and stuff, they need to ask 165 to walk away with 150, for example, right? Focus, build your net sheet, build your active comparables, build your pricing strategy around what they want to walk away with. Build it around their needs, not yours. Build your conversation around their needs, not yours, right? The next one, with expireds, all you agents are calling us, right? And sometimes they're mean about this. There's a lot of variations of this one. All you agents are calling us. F you, hang up the phone, whatever it is. And you don't get a lot of that. I'm just joking here. But all you agents are calling us. Hey, no problem. Sometimes when they do have 50 agents calling them, they're aggravated. They're not mad at you, right? They're mad at the situation that they're in. They're mad. They had a lot of problems. They had a lot of problems before with the last agent. The agent let them down. The agent, they broke their trust. The agent promised them the world. They got nothing for it. They're not mad at you. They're not even mad at all the agents calling them lots of times. They just don't understand what's happening. They don't understand their property come up on a list, and all these agents are working this list, and don't let the competition, there's never as much competition as what you think there is, but all you agents are calling us. Sometimes the thing to do is be nice to them on the phone, hang up, call again the next day, call again in 2 or 3 days. They're not going to remember you because just like they said, all these agents are calling us, right? So hang up the phone, call them back in a day or 2, right? Number 1. Sometimes you say, oh, all these agents are calling us. I go, oh my gosh, I don't like agents calling me either. and they'll kind of laugh, say something to kind of throw them off, then continue the conversation in the script, right? Say something a little bit funny. Oh gosh, I don't like all these agents. I don't like all these agents either. Hey, let me ask you, you want to sell the house, don't you? You still want to sell it, or are you guys going to keep it? So, the next objection we hear often is we want to wait a little while, right? The listing agreement just expired. They're tired. They've had to keep their house ready. Maybe they had a lot of showings. Maybe they had a lot of people looking. I mean, I had a lady email me. She's upset because it's Saturday, 9 o'clock in the morning. We had a showing. The agent basically knocked on their door and said, "Hey, we're going to skip this house," which honestly was kind of a bad thing to do. They shouldn't have done that. They should at least showed it, especially if they're sitting in the front yard. But, hey, we want to wait a little while. They're tired. They're tired of the process. Lots of times they're just frustrated. I'd always ask, really, well, how long do you think you're going to wait before you want to do something? What are you waiting on? I usually ask a question like that. What are you waiting on? But sometimes with a lot of objections, the easiest way to overcome it is to hang up today and call back. But call back it tomorrow, But we want to wait a little while. What are you waiting on? Gosh, I thought we could have sold I thought your house would have sold. Why didn't your house want to sell? I usually ask another question, try to dig a little bit deeper on that, find out what the real objection is. Usually a lot of the objections you get are just smoke screens. The smoke screens, you're on the phone with them, they want to get you off the phone, and they don't know how else to do it except for, hey, we want to wait a little while. This particular objection, this is just a smoke screen. All agents are the same. This is also just a smoke screen, and this is a common objection when you're calling expireds. All you agents are the same. You just want me to list my property with you. Oh man, one of the number of ways to overcome this objection is, guys, did your last agent have a marketing plan they showed you? Overcome it with your pre-listing package. That's how you're going to stand out. 99% of agents have nothing to give them. Overcome it with your pre-listing package. Guys, there's going to be a lot of objections that you're going to get. But here's the thing. Home sellers are not going to classes. They're not taking webinars on objections to give real estate agents. A lot of the objections that you're hearing are the same objections that I heard 10 years ago. They're the same objections that were talked about 20, 30 years ago. Hey, we don't want to work with an agent. We don't want to pay a commission. All you agents are calling us. We want to wait a little while. All agents are the same. Here's the thing, guys, these are probably the 5 most common types of objections. Guys, I would start role playing these. I'd start working on these things. If you work on them, if you practice them, guys, how good would you get at overcoming these 5 objections if you started role playing these 3 or 4 times a week? If you don't have a role play partner, go to my Facebook group, Real Estate Agents That Really Work. At the time of this recording, there's almost 18,000 agents in there. If you make a post looking for a role play partner, you will more than likely find one today. You can actually find a couple of them. Tell them, say, hey guys, I want to focus on working on common expired listing objections. I've got 5 objections I want to work on. You can find an agent that will work with you on them, I promise you. Find an agent in your office, work on them with your spouse or significant other. There's lots of different ways you can do it. But guys, one of the things I want to talk about here before we end this, I got a few things here left, is how to build a tough mindset. Okay, guys, calling expireds, making calls in general. Guys, staying focused, being on the phone 2 hours. I'm going to tell you what, it is, it can be tough. Sometimes, especially if I take a week off or we go on vacation and I'm getting back to work, man, sometimes I'm mentally exhausted when I come back, right? Sometimes, and here's the thing, sometimes when you take a few days off, you take a week off, you're not as sharp anymore, but you're having to listen to these people. You're having to overcome a lot of this stuff. Sometimes by the end of that couple hours I've got scheduled to prospect or whatever it is, sometimes I'm exhausted. Sometimes you get beat up on the phone. Sometimes, some days everybody likes you that answers the phone, and some days nobody likes you, and then other days nobody just answers the phone. So it's kind of crazy, but I want to give you 10 tips to build a tough mindset. That's the number one thing you can do to build confidence, build a tough mindset, is to role play your scripts. Role play your scripts, right? Number two is role play these objections. Those 5 objections I just gave you, if you could just overcome just the top 2 of those, and you could consistently overcome those objections, or you got really good at responding to those objections. We don't want to work with an agent. We don't want to pay with a commission. How would that change your business if you got really, really good at overcoming just those 2 objections, right? Number 3, get an accountability partner. Getting an accountability partner is fantastic. Somebody, and the thing with accountability partners, you don't want to do it with your best friend. You don't want to do it with an agent in your office, because here's the thing, your friends will let you slide, right? If you get an accountability partner that's on the other side of the country or somewhere else, somebody you don't know, and I don't know why we do this, but for some reason, we're all more accountable to people we don't know than people we know a lot of times. You need to get an accountability partner that you do not know, okay? That's the best accountability partners. Those are the people you're going to show up for the accountability call. You're going to answer their messages a lot quicker. You guys really have the same purpose, but getting an accountability partner that you don't know, that you're not best friends with, that isn't sitting in the cubicle across the room for you. Sometimes those are the best accountability partners, and those are also the best role play partners, because sometimes your friend's going to go a little bit easy on you. Right. Number 4, the thing for me is to get enough sleep. Guys, the thing that will break my motivation and break down my mindset quicker than anything is when I do not get enough sleep. When you're tired, you start doubting yourself, and it's easy to doubt yourself. It's easy to let other thoughts get in your mind. If you're tired, man, it's tough to make a lot of calls on days where you're tired. Maybe you stayed out all night. Maybe you had a little bit too much to drink. You didn't get enough rest. It is really, really difficult to perform at a high level when you do not have enough sleep. Number 5, building a tough mindset, I read. I like to read motivational material. I like to read business books. I like to read biographies. I like to hear the difficulties, struggles, the things other people overcame. When I'm reading every day, even if it's just a chapter in a book, I'm learning. It's helping my mindset, and I'm growing, and I'm really reading is enormous for me in building a mindset and keeping a tough mindset. Number 6, listen to motivational material. Listen to training material. Listen to things that are going to motivate you, get you pumped up. I like Tony Robbins. I like Zig Ziglar. I like Grant Cardone. I like Gary Vaynerchuk. I've got a list of them, but listening to motivational material, YouTube is full of it. There's so much out there. Jim Rohn is fantastic. Listening to motivational material is a part of my daily routine. Number 7, get into a coaching program. Get into some sort of coaching program, some sort of personal development program. I mean, you guys are listening to this. You guys are in my group coaching program, so you guys have number 7 already down. But for anybody that's listening to this that is not my group coaching, join my group coaching. Get in some sort of personal development program. Okay. Number 8, you need to build a routine. Right? A routine is what is going to really, really, really help you a lot. The thing is, like doing that same thing, it puts you in state. It gets you in a certain state that you're ready to go to work. I mean, for me, I get up in the morning, I make a cup of coffee, I walk the dog. On the way to the office, I'm listening to some kind of motivational material, or I'm listening to some sort of music that's going to get me all excited. Before I make my calls in the day, I'm listening to some sort of music. Building a routine, building a schedule, building these things that you're doing on a regular basis that's putting you in the mind frame of, hey, let's get to work. Let's get started. Let's go out here and make $1 million. Number 9, avoid negative agents. Guys, I'm telling you right now, the most hated agent in your office is usually the agent that's doing the most business. The agent that everybody is talking about must be doing something wrong. Believe me, I've been this agent a bunch of times. Avoid negative agents. There are agents that are going to tell you, oh, calling expires don't work. Calling for sale by owners don't work. This don't work. That don't work. But the thing is, the problem is with their business is that they don't work. I tell you what, the agents that say, oh, the market's bad, are the agents that will always believe the market's bad. They will never get over a certain level of business. They will never do what they want to do. Avoid these negative agents. Avoid these agents that are going to tell you that something's not going to work. You know, this is a proven system. Calling expireds will get you listings. Calling expireds work. Avoid those negative agents. Now, not only do you need to avoid negative agents, I didn't put this in here, but you need to avoid negative friends and negative family members. Sometimes your friends and family are the most negative people, and they can break your mindset. They tell you that things don't work. I can't believe you're doing this. Oh, you made calls 5 days and you got nothing from it. It don't work. You know, I had an agent telling me the other day that his wife told him that he was a loser and he was never going to be successful in the real estate business. You know, I don't know what to tell you to do if it's your spouse. It's kind of difficult. Sometimes you have to have that talk with them, but avoiding negative people in your life will help your mindset tremendously. For me personally, you know, I'm a big believer in you are an average of the 5 people you spend and talk to the most, spend the most time to and talk to the most. If you talk to people that are motivated, you talk to people that have stuff going on, you talk to people that are being proactive in their lives, proactive in their business, and they constantly want things to be bigger and better, it isn't going to be long until you start feeling yourself like you got to level up. Hey, if they can do it, I can do it. You know, things like that. Avoid negative agents. Number 10, you need to be consistent. Okay? Be consistent. This is the number one thing in calling expireds, calling for sale by owners, and any of your prospecting activities. If you're consistently doing it, you will see results. It's just like working out, right? If you get on the treadmill one time and you don't get back on the treadmill for another month, you really wasted your time, right? If you make calls for one day and you don't make calls for another month, then you probably wasted your time that day. Guys, if you're making calls on a daily basis and you're making calls regularly, you can be consistent, right? You can be consistent. You can consistently follow up. And that's going to lead to my next slide here, is you need to schedule your prospecting time. Guys, this is so important. If you are not putting it in your schedule and you're not putting it in your plan and you are not putting it in what you're doing every day, you are not going to do it. The quickest way for me not to do something, or the easiest way for me to tell you I'm not going to do something, is I do not put it in my calendar, right? You need to schedule your prospecting time. So here's what you need to have in your schedule. I'm going to show you real quick before we end here. I'm going to show you real quick on how to build a schedule, because I saved this to the end. This probably should have been the beginning, but here's the thing. You need to sit down with your spouse, your significant other, because I think that's really important. Because if you have a conflict at home, that's conflicting with your business, it's not going to work, right? If your business is conflicting with your home life, if your business life is conflicting with your home life, you're going to constantly have problems. The number one thing you need to do is schedule your family time. Okay. And by family time, I mean, what are your family obligations that you need to do, right? Do you have to pick up the kids from school? Do you have to take the kids to soccer practice? Do you have date night on Wednesdays with your husband or wife, right? What is your family time that you need to schedule? Typically, if you have kids, school schedule comes out. You can plan 2 or 3 months in advance, but you need to plan for it. You know, if they've got a soccer game at 6, you know, you can't schedule a listing appointment at 5:30, right? So number 2, you need to put in your schedule non-negotiable business appointments. And what I mean by non-negotiable business appointments is like, hey, you got to do continuing education. You got your coaching call on Thursdays at 11. You got whatever it is that cannot be moved, right? That you cannot schedule around anything else. Like, you know, and typically that's going to be your continuing education. It's going to be your coaching calls. It's going to be, you know, it might be your appointment with an accountant or attorney or whatever it is, but schedule non-negotiable business appointments. The business appointments that you have to be at, you know, lots of times a lot of agents like to network. You know, they go to chamber events, they do things like that. You know, that chamber event ain't going to work around your schedule, man. You got to put it in your schedule. That way you can plan around it, right? Number 3, we need to schedule prospecting time. I'd recommend scheduling prospecting time for every day that you plan to work, right? If you're doing it every day, you're going to get really, really, really good at it. If you're doing it once a week, it's going to take you a little bit longer to see results. It's going to take you a little bit longer to get good at it. It's going to take you a little bit longer to build that muscle memory to overcome those scripts and dialogues and overcome those objections and stuff like that. Schedule your prospecting time. These prospecting time schedules, these need to be non-negotiable appointments also. Number 4, schedule any other income generating activities. For this purpose of this particular webinar, we're only talking about expireds, but whatever prospecting income generating activities, calling expireds, calling for sale by owners, calling your sphere of influence, whatever it is, schedule all other income generating activities. If you're consistently blogging, if you're consistently making videos, I'd put it all in my schedule, because the quickest way for you not to do it is to just not schedule it, right? Number 5, schedule your other stuff. Okay, for me personally, I go ahead and put in my schedule a couple of listing appointment blocks, or I put a listing appointment block for at least once a day, right? If for some reason I don't schedule a listing appointment to fill in that block, then hey, I can go do other stuff, but at the same time, I know that 2 to 3 o'clock in the afternoon, I've got a block there, and that's an easy time that I can schedule every day, that I don't plan anything else unless it's just one of those non-negotiable items. But you schedule other stuff, your paperwork time, things like that. Guys, the number 1 key to expired success is consistently prospecting. Just like I told you earlier, and I want to end with this, the number 1 key to expired success is consistently prospecting. If you start working on expireds, if you start calling new expireds, you start calling old expireds, and you can start calling them on a daily basis, a weekly basis, things like that, you're going to start seeing results. This is a numbers game. The more you call them, the more numbers you dial, the more people you talk to, the more business you're going to do, right? The more listing appointments you're going to do. Okay, and here's the thing too. Consistent prospecting leads to consistent listings, which lead to consistent contracts, which lead to consistent paychecks. Consistently prospecting is the key. That is the number 1 thing that you need to be working on a daily basis, is consistently prospecting, consistently doing this income producing activity. Guys, I got some helpful links here. If you guys are listening to this live, I really appreciate you being on the call here this morning. For you guys that listen to this recording, I got some helpful links here. Guys, you can go to my YouTube channel, Jason Morris Group YouTube, at youtube.com/C/Jason Morris Group. I have my group coaching website at jasonmorrisgroup.com. That RedX discount link is jasonmorrisredx.com. And then you guys, more than likely, you guys found me at Real Estate Agents That Really Work. You can go to my Facebook group, Real Estate Agents That Really Work. Guys, if I can help you, send me an email, jasonmorriscoaching@gmail.com, and I'll be glad to respond. I'll be glad to help you any way I can. Send me a message through Facebook. Join, if you're not a part of my group, Real Estate Agents That Really Work, join it, and let me know what I can help you guys do and how I can help you with your business. You guys have a great day.